It's Pride Month. I'm a Transmasc person. I feel like yapping about how a cartoon character was part of what cracked my trans egg. And some of my experiences as a trans person in general. Total Drama World Tour premiered in 2010, and the minute Alejandro walked on screen, well, I didn't have some kind of magic epiphany, but he sparked my interest and definitely had a pull to him I couldn't properly describe at the time. I honestly thought I just found the character attractive, had a weird crush on him, or was stupidly invested in Alejandro and Heather as a ship. I have a few one-off ship my cartoon persona illustrations with Alejandro, but the bulk of my fan art was easily just Alejandro, or Alejandro and Heather. It started with a fun, dumb fan art of Alejandro ripping his shirt off, accompanied by sparkles and bright light. Then I wrote my first ever Alejandro and Heather fanfic, The Amazon, which was pretty much Alejandro and Heather getting stuck together, trying to survive in the Amazon rainforest, confessing catching feelings, and then making out behind a waterfall. After getting a feel for trying to write from Alejandro's perspective, something clicked. I wanted to try writing something beefier and more in-depth in first-person perspective rather than third-person omniscient. The result was captivating. A fic that started as an Alejandro and Heather-focused high school AU, but quickly became a soap opera with the race for student council, petty cheating, scheming older brother Jose, and other miscellaneous bullshit. While I have very mixed feelings on that particular fanfic now, I remember how much I enjoyed writing for Alejandro. He was a pretty boy that oozed with impeccable fashion sense. He was smart, viewed himself as a fourth-dimensional chess schemer, a jack of all trades with almost full mastery in all. Very muscly in a way that fit both aesthetics and practical needs for endurance or strength. He was mean, petty, and cruel, with a silver tongue. In high school, I was a meek, quiet dormouse of a person with horribly low self-esteem and crazy hair that hid in baggy t-shirts or behind books. It felt like I was either an easy target or someone people pitied. Other kids didn't really talk to me, guys weren't interested in my grungy self, unless they were flirting with me on a dare, or thought I'd be easy to break and manipulate. Of course the world isn't black and white. There were several kids that were actually friendly and kind to me, and I'm hoping they're all doing well now, as a lonely neurodivergent kid that didn't quite know how to human. That said, I still didn't like being the short, weird girl that would never get taken seriously, was laughed at or teased when I tried to speak up and got angry, or only felt validated when I leaned into being the eccentric class clown. I used to dream about being a big, burly, ugly dude. A brick wall that people were intimidated by and left alone. Or that I'd be able to beat up people just because I was bigger and stronger. Writing for Alejandro was an escapist fantasy. I was writing for a character that was scary and intimidating in a subtle way, and probably could win in a fistfight if he had to. But he was also very desirable, sought after, and beloved by someone no matter what he did, in large part because he was a handsome young man with pretty privilege. Most of my approach to writing him was playing at or trying to convincingly portray this character, but every time he became lovesick or pined after Heather, that was absolutely my hopeless romantic side coming through. I didn't immediately clock my attachment to this character as wanting to be a pretty boy like him. There's plenty of cis-het, bisexual, and lesbian women artists that relate to, create, and write for masculine characters. I remember a book group I was part of getting to talk to one of the authors behind some bad boy and shy girl romance novel we just read. The author was an older cis-het woman that said she related more to the bad boy character, and had an easier time writing from his perspective, and coming up with his dialogue. That seems to be the case for, and motivation behind why a lot of women write slash fanfics too. That's an entire rabbit hole in and of itself though. I wanted to mention it more because Alejandro was just one small part of my Transmasc journey overall. I did have a real-life experience with conflicting feelings over, I don't know if I want to date this person or be him. Granted, I didn't know that's what I was agonizing over until years later. The picture was, I still thought I was a cis-het woman. When I met this guy for the first time, I felt drawn towards and intrigued by him. It really felt like a crush. I wanted to be around this person, enjoyed his company, Admired how nice he looked wandering around in either turtleneck sweaters or a lab coat attempt at a casual Okabe Rentaro cosplay. He was a fun, eccentric anime enthusiast about a year or so older than me, and known for sporting cat ears the previous year. Why I'm skeptic about whether I actually had a crush on him is I remember getting the opportunity to be alone with this dude at a nature reserve. I spent the entire time anxious, wishing the third person that had been invited would show up, feeling like horrible, awkward company. I know feelings like that can and do pop up in actual first date situations. It's more that I could never comfortably imagine what it'd be like to just hang out with this person in a laid-back setting or a situation one-on-one. These feelings were dramatically different from another guy I had a temporary relationship with about a year later and my current partner. In both of these relationships, I felt very attracted to the other person. Highly anticipated alone time, and the feelings were enough to steamroll or work past the nervousness and anxiety. Granted, I also knew I had a green light and that the feelings were mutual. I guess what cemented how I felt was, looking back on it, is that now I'd love to look half as good as a real-life Rentaro. I wanted to be as confident and openly weird as him. It was gender envy. Even if I ever had a snowball's chance in hell with that guy, it would have been a horrible, awkward mess. Because I wasn't interested in the actual person. I had an idea in my head, or a loose sketch of who he was, and spent far more time fantasizing about that image versus getting to know the three-dimensional, real being standing in front of me. I'm glad nothing happened, and that in what handful of romantic situations I've been in, it's been a case of wanting this separate, distinct person, rather than a romanticized image in my head that yeah. Weirdly enough, I didn't realize this was real-life gender envy until I watched through OKKO again, looked at Professor Venomous, and had a very similar experience with what I did with Alejandro as a teenager. He's a twink with shoulder-length hair and slight stubble that wears eyeliner. He's the older, purple, and cartoon supervillain aesthetic version of what I liked about Alejandro. I'm hoping that I reach a point where I'm confident enough to try cosplaying as him. I'd be a shorter, barrel-shaped version, but I think it'd be pretty fun anyway. Might actually work up the nerve to appear on camera again if I could pull off looking that good in a turtleneck and a lab coat. So far, my track record is that I'm more likely to write really long, in-depth, angsty fanfics about characters that I feel gender envy towards, or very roughly fit what my ideal pretty boy image looks like. I don't know, I guess I just really want to be a pretty snake man. And yes, that includes the snake tongue.